Interviews are nothing new for my guest today, Lauren Locke, senior producer at PGA of America, but it's what side of the interview that is a little bit different. Usually she's the one asking the questions. Now she's on the other end. She'll be answering questions. This is not some sort of hot seat situation. We're not trying to surprise her or throw stumping questions out there, but this is a look into her life, a look into what she's done in the golf space, and get that well-rounded perspective. I'm Bryan Fenley, golf broadcaster, work for different networks. And Lauren, it is a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for being a part of this.
Thank you so much. Happy to join you here.
The Texas Tech origins. Everywhere you go, I feel like you're singing the praises of the Red Raiders, rightly so, given that you had your bachelor's degree there and then your master's as well. When you talk to the folks over there, even to this day, why are they so proud of you and what you've done post college into your professional life?
It's so funny. I always make the joke that all roads lead to Lubbock because there is somehow, some way, some connection to Lubbock, Texas Tech, West Texas in general. And so, whether it was whenever I was living in New York or now working for the PGA of America, that there is somehow, some way that Lubbock comes up and is a plug into some kind of story. But I would say, growing up in Lubbock, I was born there and I grew up there my entire life, going to college there. Took about 9 months away from Lubbock traveling after I graduated college, traveling as a consultant for my sorority, but then going back for grad school. So added one more year to my tenure in Lubbock. And I would say whenever I was in college, as well as my master's program, I was super integrated into the community. I was part of all different kinds of organizations, whether that be a organization called Present Select, where I'm helping with football recruiting, and I'm one of those people that's walking backwards on campus, giving campus tours to potential incoming students and their families, working orientations, really just kind of being a recruiter for Texas Tech all the way around. And then I also was on our Student Government Association. I was president of my sorority. So I really just, hit the ground running from day one of my freshman year of getting integrated into the Texas Tech community. So I think being so part of that community to then, going on in my career, I owe it a lot of it to the things I learned while at Tech, whether that be in the classroom or from a lot of the people that I came across and worked with throughout a lot of those organizations. And so to, make it into the different organization or different industries that I have were not only a dream come true, but, I feel like I owe a lot of it, if not most of it, to the people that I know from Texas Tech and Lubbock, and just the people that championed me through.
If I was one of the people who would be a prospective student looking at Texas Tech, and you are in a position where you're putting on a tour, and I'm looking at the campus and I'm thinking about, wow, this would be really cool to be here. What are you going to sell me on? What is your pitch to me that is resolutely going to convince me I'm going to plant my flag in Lubbock?
It's funny because whenever I was in college, I was through a slew of different football coaches. Mike Leach was my freshman year, which I'd grown up watching all of his games growing up, and then into Tommy Tuberville, Cliff Kingsbury. So a big part of, that Texas Tech love is for our sports program, specifically, football. Whenever I was growing up, but then also basketball. We've had such an awesome run during the basketball season these last few years. And so I would say to really sell you on Texas Tech, I'd say you'd have to come to a football or basketball game or even baseball, whatever it may be. Our athletic department is something that, you know, is definitely the heartbeat of all Red Raiders. And we ride hard and we die hard for our teams. And so I think, showing prospective students, especially if it was, an athlete that was potentially coming to play at Texas Tech, you can just feel it whenever you're there. You feel just I don't know what you would say of there's something in the air, and there's something about being in West Texas of the people. They're so kind. They are some of the best people you'll ever meet. And I think a combination between the people, but then also just the spirit that you feel of just being so, so wholeheartedly there for this team, and you feel it around you from the other people. They throw tortillas at the football games, which is kind of a bizarre tradition, but it's one that, people always ask, y'all really throw tortillas? And it's funny, there's a grocery store that has a billboard up next to the stadium marketing their homemade tortillas. So I would just say that, yeah, it's just something. It's hard to put words to it. It's something that you can just really feel. That makes sense. It's kind of cheesy, but it's true.
Does. There are some fun traditions that Texas Tech has that are unique to any other school. And even though you're not in school now per se, at least for me post college, I always have that insatiable desire to want to learn. And no matter what I'm doing, whatever project or work that I'm in, how does that come across for you at now PGA of America, where you are senior producer, where you obviously know a lot about what you're doing and what you're trying to do, content creation, storytelling, a mishmash of all of this. But where do you find the love internally to keep pushing for wanting to know more and what that looks like?
Yeah, there are so many interesting stories throughout the golf space and the golf industry, and I feel like it's a never-ending kind of faucet where you can just, put a cup under it and you capture all of these incredible stories, and then you grab another cup and there's still more to come, that you're kind of never out of these inspiring stories of how golf has brought people together, how it has strengthened relationships between, father son, mother daughter, father daughter. But then also too, these people that have been positively impacted by golf because it has, saved their lives in a way that, here at the PGA, we have our flagship program, PGA Hope, that our military flagship program for our Reach Foundation. And I feel like the stories that you just hear, it just leads to another story, another story, another story. And then also with our youth programming, that golf is just making such a positive difference in people's lives. And I feel like there's just kind of a never ending loop to all of the stories that you can find and capture throughout the golf industry. And PGA of America, we're constantly trying to find all of those great stories and get them out in front of audiences so that we can continue to make a difference.
In prioritizing certain stories, what are the boxes that you check off to know, okay, there, like you said, there are so many different ways that we can grow the sport, maximize our exposure at PGA of America, promoting individuals, promoting associations, promoting charities and philanthropy. But in stepping in and saying, this is what we need to do now, like if there is a hierarchy of what you go to first, how does that look like?
I think it's different kind of depending on whoever you ask, because everyone wants to see people that they look like in the golf industry. And, it's no surprise that to anybody that women, are the amount of women playing golf and being integrated into the game of golf is higher than ever. But there's still quite a ways to go. And so, one thing that I personally love, from my background, I love pop culture, and I love kind of bringing together people from a space of happiness and something that's funny. And so something that I love to do, in, just not necessarily my everyday, but if it comes up, if there's, a really popular athlete or a singer, actress, whatever it may be, finding out that they have picked up the game of golf and love to golf, it brings me so much joy to try and figure out, okay, how do we get them integrated into promoting golf to their audience? Because, they clearly are they're bought in. So how can we get their audience to buy in through whatever it is that we can provide to them as a means to give their audience stepping stones? Because there's different comedians, I feel like, and just it's a plethora of celebrities in that whole atmosphere. But it truly is something that, whenever you have a louder voice saying it, it sometimes comes across to people that are the most unlikely to hear it, because they're not necessarily the ones that are tuning into our championships on TV. They're the ones that kind of come across it from seeing it through a social media channel or whatever it may be, that then they think maybe I'll pick that up. And I think that's definitely something that happened during the pandemic. And so just trying to continue to grow on that.
From louder voices to channeling into your inner voice and what the conversations have been like, and having faith in yourself through these different stages of your life, from college and then into the working world. What would I be hearing internally, the faith that you have in yourself and how that comes across as you have made these different steps and these progressive moves in your career and life?
It's so funny because my entire life, I knew I wanted to work in television in some realm, whether that be behind the camera, in front of the camera, around the camera, and not even necessarily the camera itself, but just being in the broadcast production industry in some way. It's something I truly, I think from day one, knew I wanted to do it. And so I just took the steps, and I guess I'll bet the leaps of faith, if you will, to kind of make those happen. And I've been so fortunate to be able to work in these places and work with people that I never could have dreamed would actually come true. You always hope that you can go as far as possible. And I'm certainly not done yet, but I would say I just the leap of faith of having that just confidence in myself of, it's never going to happen if I don't put myself out there. It's never going to happen if I don't submit my resume to that, if I don't reach out to this person, if I don't, utilize my network to find out who knows who of who with, their sister's aunt's cousin is a this or that. And so I think just really championing for myself of the things that I have always wanted to do and dreamed of doing, and hoping that my passion would, translate into these different roles. And I would say that luckily it's worked out so far. Obviously, I've definitely had my fair share of things that haven't worked out, but I would say that just the passion and just the fire inside of myself to really take that faith and trust and hope that it's all gonna work out. And so far, I've been fortunate.
You've made incredible strides. Lauren Locke is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. And there is this, I would think, there's this inherent confidence that one has that they can be born with. And obviously, you have that. But if you go back to your childhood, who also gave you the gift of seeing your potential in yourself so that you could make the sacrifices and make the strides in the directions that you pursued, working closer to those dreams that you've had?
I mean, 100% my parents. They have championed me in ways that I feel I will never be able to pay them back for, because their support, not only, but just their faith in me as well, that anything I've ever wanted to do, they have said that they will support me in every step of the journey of, whether that be receiving a no and they're always there to help pick me up, or receiving the yes of, you're never going to believe this, I got a job offer to work for the Today Show, and we're all just screaming on the phone like, oh my gosh, we can't believe it, like it's happening. But then also too, of being far away from them, and that can definitely be hard, especially in your early 20s, of kind of trying to learn your own identity and find your place in the world. And I've always been, it's funny, growing, as I said, growing up in Lubbock, and you would think that I was really kind of sheltered and very much New York would be a culture shock, but it really wasn't for me at all. I loved it. I loved just the vibrance of the city. I loved just all of the things that kind of are at your fingertips. And my parents knew that I would be so happy there. And I was tremendously happy there. And, my dad used to joke with me whenever I was younger that why are you not on the Disney Channel? Like, you're just such a ham. You're so animated. And um, people have always said, Lauren's never been one to not have a flair for the dramatics. But that could also be my minor in theater from Texas Tech as well. Um, and so I think just, from a young age, I always loved, performing or just kind of being the one to crack a joke. And I think even my friends still to this day would say I haven't changed at all in that aspect because I'm always trying to find levity in a situation or really help people feel their best and feel happy. And I think part of that is because my parents really instilled that in me and um, their support just really, I think, made me feel I never had a doubt about myself because they supported me the whole way.
With that said, if there was a moment in your childhood that you could hit the pause button on, where you're like, if I'm going to go back to some time with your parents, where I wish I could relive that time, when might that be?
That is a really good question. Not one that I've really ever thought about. Hmm.
The younger years of being a child and that innocence that we all carry, or is it the teenage years and finding ourselves? And there's so many different ways to go with this.
I think, our summer family vacations were always my favorite thing in the world. We would go from anywhere from Disneyland in California to, my dad worked for the athletic department while I was growing up for a long time at Tech. And, we spent one Christmas in Tucson because Texas Tech was playing in the Copper Bowl. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would ever spend a Christmas day swimming at a pool. I thought that was just the most mind-blowing thing, as well as Santa finding us in Tucson. I just couldn't believe that he found us, although our hotel room did have a chimney. So that was, that was lucky. Lucky for some people. And so, these memories that I have of my family on trips and my dad and my older brother were all huge sports fanatics. My dad, especially, just really, I owe all of my sports love and knowledge to him. He used to make me guess the different Big 12 fight songs on an old CD. On these road trips, he'd play a song, and I'd have to guess which fight song it was. And this is back whenever even Nebraska was in the Big 12, and it's just crazy to see how much it's changed and how far it's come along. But these road trips of going to all the different baseball stadiums, seeing how many we could hit up, and the memories that we made through that. I'd give anything to be able to go on a road trip. Just the four of us. I love whenever it's the four of us and we just crack up and have all these inside jokes of things that, stupid things that you say when you're a kid but are hilarious now. And most people would be like, "Oh no, don't tell my embarrassing stories." But I love hearing about all the goofy stuff that used to happen whenever we'd be, you know, running on like 3 hours of sleep because we went camping and there were grasshoppers and all these things coming into the tent.
So I take it that the next trip is not going to involve camping because of that. But
No.
if you are to think about, strategize the four of you on a road trip and what the next one would look like, ideally, what are we talking about here?
I would say a road trip is not necessarily how I would prefer to get there, but only because with my dad being such a huge sports nut and instilling that into my brother and I, and specifically golf. My dad's a big scratch golfer, and so I grew up around golf my entire life, and so I would love, I'll be working it, but I would love to have a family road trip, quote unquote, to New York for the Ryder Cup. My brother and my dad got to go to the Masters this year, and it was my dad's first time at Augusta to go. And you know, he said that it was just the most incredible day. And I'm kind of jealous that my brother got to have that with him and I didn't. And so I would love to experience with my family something like the Ryder Cup where, my dad and my brother will love it so much. My mom likes golf, but she just wants to be there just to be with everybody and rep all of the Ryder Cup gear I've given her over the years. But it would just be so much fun and it would almost feel like a culmination of, our family trips plus how hard I've worked to get to where I am today and just enjoy this really fun sporting events because we just love going to sporting events and stuff. And so that's why I said the caveat of maybe not a road trip because I don't know that I'd want to drive from Dallas up to Long Island. That'd be quite a trip.
That certainly would be. I would not advise that, considering that the time that it would take to do that. Your dad being a scratch golfer, when and if you've been on the course with him, what is that dynamic like?
It's hysterical because when I first started working at the PGA, he said, "All right, we got to get you to a range. We got to get you ready." My grandmother gave me her set of clubs that she wasn't using anymore. We went out to the range and I'll never forget it was probably 5 or 6 o'clock when we got out there in the summertime. And we were there until about 9 or 10 and we were there till dark. And it was so fun getting to really, have that moment of us two. And he's so excited that I'm going to be working at the PGA. He's so excited because golf has been such a massive part of his life. He played at Texas Christian University, and then ended up coming back to Lubbock and finishing at Tech, not necessarily on the team, but so golf has just been such a huge presence in his life. So to have that in common with him and be able to, talk the talk with him about all these fun little things that are going on throughout the week in the industry. And yeah, just being on the range with him that day, it meant so much. And it's something that I'll never forget. And I remember growing up and I thought it was the most fun thing ever to take my shoes off and get in a sand trap and walk around the putting green because that grass, it just feels so good. It feels so good on a bare foot. Very, very like weird, but it's kind of like a if you know, you know thing. And so growing up, going out there and watching him or watching my brother and to now have that in common is awesome. And
Yeah.
since it was just Father's Day,
Yes.
and this was probably 4 years ago. I went home for Father's Day and I asked my dad for us to play at least 9 holes because I was like, I know you think I can't make it all the way through 18, but let's at least play nine. And he's like, okay, I want to make sure we're not going too slow, holding people up. And I said, we'll be fine. I'll never forget, I hit it like 200 yards over the water. And he did not believe me at all. We see this ball over the river, well, river, Lubbock. It's like a little tiny pond. And I say, well, there's my ball. He's, that can't be your ball. That can't be your ball. I said, that is my ball. Sure enough, we go over. It's my ball. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you hit that. That must have been 200 something plus yards, which for me, that was a big deal. So then my mom meets us and we go to dinner. We go to dinner there later, and everyone walking by, he comes up and he's like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. Lauren hit this incredible shot on 17 over the water. So he's just going around telling everybody, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, good job. And I thought, biggest pat on the back to me that, here he thought I was going to be slow. And then I'm over there driving it past however many yards. And he just, it was a proud dad moment for sure.
So what was the swing thought that he instilled in you? Because, yeah, you made that swing, you hit that ball 200 plus yards, but knowing him and how much pride he has in the game, he had to have taken some sort of credit. for what you just did.
Oh, he absolutely did. It's funny. I didn't grow up playing golf. I grew up playing tennis. And I think having the tennis swing, it sometimes I have to really focus on my golf swing because I very much want to just bring it up and, just whack it. Um, and so I think I was just, for me at least, I was like, please just let me not whiff it. Let me not totally shank it. But as soon as, he knows, as soon as I get a driver in my hand, I just want to like Happy Gilmore it, just smack it. So I think it was really kind of a luck situation, a Hail Mary, if you will, of okay, we've got 2 holes left, so please let me hit this and hit it the way I need to. And sure enough, the golf gods were with me and
It's
helped me carry it.
it's always that one shot, and it's very cliche to say this, that will bring you back, especially
Yes.
when you see your father's reaction to when that happens, and then to say, "Yeah, I did this, Dad. Get used to this because this is not the only time that it's going to happen." In closing, if you were to, and you talked about how your brother and your dad got to go to the Masters and just incredible experiences like that. What you get to do now in golf is making, yeah, it's easy to be jealous of what they did going to the Masters, but where can you make them envious about what you're doing right now?
I think they're envious every day. But part of that is, they don't always know that a lot of the days I'm working through emails, I'm working through finance trackers, I'm working with our accounts payable department. It's sometimes the not so glamorous stuff, but it's always the championship weeks that my dad, he it could be one of our amateur events or it could be our PGA professional championship. And my dad loves following the leaderboard of just, being in the know of what's going on, of where it is I am, and just all the different, clubs I'll get to visit and all these places that I might not have ever visited otherwise. And so I think he's retired now, so he spends all day every day at a golf course. And so it can sometimes be hard to make him jealous because of that. But I think every day he's kind of just jealous that, gosh, you just are getting to live this, dream that I have dreamed for you of not only loving what you're doing and, working with people that you love, but also getting to watch you do that is more than anything that he or my mom could have ever dreamed of. And my brother loves to come any chance he gets to go to a golf tournament, or I'll always get him and my dad and everybody a golf hat or a golf shirt or golf ball, whatever it may be. And so they've all got quite the collection growing now too, since that tradition has started. But I think envy is a term that they're envious in the way of just like, gosh, I can't believe that you get to work in golf every day. But they're so happy to see where I've landed, and are always championing me to continue to work my hardest to see what will be next. And I'm thrilled to be able to share that with my family.
They're proud of you and that you are the pride of Lubbock. And you've definitely come a long way since giving college tours at
Yes.
Texas Tech. Although what you get to do now has to be, in large part, based upon the origins of your Texas Tech story. You wouldn't be where you are. And that's why I'm ending this conversation talking about the Red Raiders while also beginning this conversation with the Red Raiders. Lauren Locke, senior producer, PGA of America. I'm Bryan Fenley, golf broadcaster, and this is the On to Something podcast. Lauren, thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
joining. This was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Such a fun conversation. I could talk about Lubbock and Texas Tech all day.